Your bad guys should absolutely be spying on the player characters in your Ptolus campaign. In a typical D&D game, I know they're all across the map, but in a typical D&D game, the player characters are going to jump from small town to hamlet, maybe visiting big cities occasionally while traveling all across the map. Many times they won't even return to the same place twice. They'll be hopping from dungeon to dungeon and adventure to adventurer, right? But a Ptolus campaign is completely different. Your characters are going to spend nearly their entire career in just one city. They're going to be interacting with many of the same NPCs over and over and over again, and they're constantly going to be brushing up against the schemes, plots, and agents of multiple big bad guys that you pit against them. So rather than the antagonist of, again, forgive me, a normal D&D game who has to send agents chasing after your characters across the entire continent or even planes of existence, Ptolus bad guys have the benefit of thousands of people being around the PCs at any given time. Just walking down Center Street, the characters could never keep track of all the eyes that are on them. Then when you bring magic into the equation, if they're staying someplace public, like the Welcome Inn or the Ghostly Minstrel, do they monitor for scrying and spying? At low levels, they won't even be able to do that, right? So it doesn't matter if you're using the adventures in Chapter 33 of the Ptolus book, or one of the pre-published adventure modules like the Night of Dissolution, the Bane Warrens, or even the newest adventures released by Monte Cook Games like the Doctrine of Ghoul or the Return of Even Hand. Even if you're using your own homebrew content or other published modules, your bad guys should be spying on the characters. Now, I mentioned in another video that my players went down into the Temple of Chaos, which is part of the Night of Dissolution adventure, and then left. Then they returned, then they left again, and finally they went back for a third time. Your bad guys are not pre-programmed video game pieces, right? They're intelligent, they're alive, they're scheming, and most importantly, they're adaptive beings. They should react to what the player characters are doing. They want to win. The Chaos Cultists have no intention of allowing your characters to thwart their schemes to bring back the Galkit. The Pack Lords of the Quan absolutely want access to the Bane Warrens, and they don't care that your PCs are the heroes of the story, right? The bad guys want to win. They're going to spy on your characters, trick them, lead them astray, trap them, and altogether do whatever is in their power to accomplish their goals. Typically, the bad guys don't even see themselves as bad guys. Now, we don't want to constantly threaten NPCs that the characters interact with, okay? As a plot device, that gets really old really fast. And it's also going to force the exact opposite of what you want your players to do, which is them to engage with NPCs. They're going to stop doing that because they're going to assume that you'll use any relationship they form against them in the future. But bad guys can pump NPCs for information. They can read their thoughts. Their will saves normally aren't that great when it's a first level commoner. Or they can also just get them drunk enough to reveal the powers, capabilities, tactics, and even potentially the equipment of your player characters. All of that can happen without the NPCs ever being in danger. So let's think about magic again. Many of the pre-written bad guys in the Ptolus book and other adventures are either powerful spellcasters or they have access to those spellcasters. That means divination magic is absolutely in play. So when your player characters are lower level, they won't be able to detect divination magic, right? They won't have the spells, they won't have the capabilities or the magic items yet. When they're higher level, they can, but are they going to be able to do that all the time? There are magic items that defend against this, and then there's spells they can cast to protect their permanent residences. They're going to get those eventually, right? But these are all steps they're going to have to take, and they're all wonderful opportunities for your story. So here's a few ideas, some mundane items or methods that your bad guys can employ to spy on your characters. They can hire spies to watch them as they move around the city and even watch them in their hangouts. Again, if they're spending time in the Ghostly Minstrel, there's typically dozens of other people in there. You can actually have spies talk to their friends and family in the city. Again, your characters are interacting with a lot of different NPCs. If you think about Iltamar Shan at the Bull and Bear Armory, he might know exactly the kind of armor that your player characters are wearing if they bought it from him. If he talks to somebody and gets that bug of, oh man, this person is cool, or maybe they just buy him too many drinks, that information could now be in the hands of the player character's enemies. You can have a false ally join them for an adventure. They could lend them genuine help, but only in an effort to gauge the player character's abilities and then allow their own people to prepare to battle against them. And remember, there's likely multiple bad guys interested in the PCs. Again, if you're looking at the Ptolus book, if you're running even a fraction of that, there could be a dozen bad guys that want something from the party, that want to go up against them. And maybe not even bad guys, right? Just people that want more information about them. So perhaps one of those bad guys is actually willing to aid the party against a completely different foe that's going to further their agenda, right? Good people on the streets, like vendors and shopkeepers, could easily be paid for information about the PCs. Again, Iltamar is a great example, but there could be a simple apple cart vendor that your bad guys could then pay to say, hey, whenever these people pass by, immediately notify this guy standing next to you and he's going to run and tell me, or whatever, right? Now, there's old-fashioned peepholes or cutout eyes and paintings and everything else you've seen in Scooby-Doo. Those are all fair game, right? Anywhere that they're going, there could be a false wall. There could be false art. And also, finally, remember that Ptolus is a city, and it's a vertical city. Somebody could easily be perched on a rooftop or even running along them. They don't have to be walking down on the streets with your player characters. Let's think about some magical ways your bad guys can spy on the characters. Obviously, there's the scrying spell, right? That's the first thing that comes to mind. But there's also handy stuff like Arcane Eye, which is a spell that allows you to send a little device kind of following after them that's invisible. There's Clairaudience and Clairvoyance, so they could listen in on them, spy on them. And then don't forget, there's evil gods, right? The bad guys could use spells like Augury, which will allow them to talk to their own deities and get answers about the good guys, just like your good guys can do that in the inverse, right? There's demons and devils that people could summon that have the capability to see things that are on the mortal plane, even if they can't necessarily come there in person or whatever, right? You could even potentially raise the dead and ask questions about how the player characters killed them, and then they have the information there, maybe even learning some tactics. There's invisibility and silencing spells, which you can cast on creatures that follow the PC all over the place. Now, this is Ptolus, high magic, right? How about an invisible wizard flying atop a flying carpet that's also invisible, keeping tabs on the characters? The sky's the limit here for you, really. Read through the spell books and then just get creative. Get into the headspace, get into the mind space of, if I had all of this magic at my disposal, if I was a very wealthy wizard, if I was a part of any of these organizations that have vast wealth, what could I do? What could I come up with to spy on these people? Now, share your ideas in the comments or on our Discord channel. There's a link in the description down below. There are some awesome narrators on our Ptolus server, Discord server right now. Everybody is constantly sharing ideas, and they're actually Ptolus specific ideas, right? Not just D20, not just D&D, but Ptolus. We are all about Ptolus on our Discord channel. I really want to figure out an idea of a way to share all of this stuff with you, but there is so much conversation. I really haven't figured out a method to do that yet. If you have any suggestions, if anybody else does anything like this, you're watching Discord, a way to kind of disseminate all that information, please let me know in the comments. Join Discord, send me a message on there, or you can even use the contact form on my website. Just remember that your bad guys, or honestly, maybe I should stop calling them that and simply say antagonists, right? Remember, your antagonists want to win. They want to achieve their goals. Just like your party is likely to scout out locations and people, their opposition should be doing the exact same thing. Ptolus makes this even more exciting and interesting, right? 9 black hooded riders on black horses of evil looking at your characters, they're going to stand out like a sore thumb in a 20-person community hamlet, right? Well, honestly, that's going to stand out in Ptolus too, but there are hundreds more strangers in Ptolus than the small hamlet your group stopped off in after clearing out a dungeon. That makes it a lot easier for agents of your bad guys, or again, antagonists, because they're not all bad guys, right? Antagonists, anybody that's in opposition to what your characters want to achieve. That makes it a lot easier for their agents to blend in and keep an eye on them. Here's a sneak peek into something I'm actually doing with my former DMPC, because most people don't like DMPCs. It worked in my game very well, but maybe that's an outlier, whatever, right? I turned him into an NPC. Well, Beli is my rogue, and he actually started a business using Matt Colville's Strongholds and Followers book to create an information network. So him and his little sorcerer companion, whose name is Jameer, they created a new business in Ptolus. It's actually if you look at the Ptolus map, it's the little building right next to the Welcome Inn, because they're also involved in the Welcome Inn. But more about that later. They're making magical toys for children, but this is actually just a cover for an information network, again, using Matt Colville's book for actually how to run an information network. And Beli's information network predominantly is using children for information. Very few people look at kids, right? They're small, they can move around the city, they work far cheaper than wizards. So I haven't fleshed this all out yet, but it has been super, super fun to start looking at this, reading through the Strongholds and Followers book, which is just fascinating. And I'll keep you guys updated on this. And I'm thinking maybe this is the kind of thing that I could include in like a Patreon system that you guys could help me with. I'm still working on getting that done. So obviously, do the YouTube thing, clicky, the like, subscribe, leave a comment for the algorithm, blah, blah, blah. The same thing everybody else says if you watch YouTube videos, right? Please join our Ptolus-specific Discord server. There are seriously some awesome people on there sharing great ideas and helping each other out all the time. They have given me so much advice, given me such great ideas. We literally just did something in our campaign that was suggested on the Discord, and I immediately had to integrate it. And so that's been super exciting. It's just, if you're running a Ptolus campaign, this is a great place to be. There's some awesome people on there. We're at like 120 something as of right now. If you don't know about my unofficial Ptolus website, check that out ASAP. It's ptol.us. You can see a link down in the description below. It is completely mobile friendly. It is searchable. Plus, there's an interactive map that I'm really proud of. You can zoom in, zoom out, click on different links, and then go find more information about that. But to access the full information of everything in the book, you have to prove that you own a copy of Ptolus, whether that's backing the Kickstarter, buying a digital version of the book, or if you physically have a book. I detail everything on there. Click on the contact link and figure that out. I work really, really hard to make sure that I protect Monty Cook Games as intellectual property. I do not want to slight them. They have given us this amazing setting, and I'm just doing everything I can to try to make it a little bit better. Until next time, stay out of the shadow of the spire.